still a b-boy. From the old to the new, still a b-boy. Too bold for the school, still a b-boy. East coast to the west, b-boys worldwide, we supposed to be blessed, still a b-boy.
B-boys, B-girls, this is the season finale of season 3. We will be back in the spring, so just got to hold out a couple months, check out the back ones. But for the last episode, we're heading to Cleveland to talk about a group that took the industry by storm in 1994 after being discovered by the legendary Eazy-E. Mixing thugged out lyrics with harmonizing, these 5 cats from Cleveland pretty much created a new genre within hip-hop. This week, top 10 Bone Thugs-n-Harmony songs. Joining me, as always, Raven Hunter. We got Riplak back in the house and AP Rowdy Jesus. Well, let's do this. And I'm going to start us off in the year 1995, probably their most well-known album, East 1999 Eternal. And I'm going with the song Mo Murder. This beat by Unique, who did most of their beats in this era, it's just so haunting, and the hook almost reminds me of a DJ Screw. It's really slow and haunting, but it memorizes me. It just mesmerizes me, rather. Their trademark fast flow actually works in this slower type beat, and this beat just transports me somewhere else. It's just like eerie as hell, and I find myself just like, I don't know, it like possesses me a little bit. This beat from Mo Murder is just ill as hell. So I had to get it in there at number 10. So that's my number 10. Raven, what's yours?
We'll talk about Mo Murder again later. I went with Notorious Thugs, which I know is not technically a Bone song, Bone and Biggie. The beat is killer, and I don't know if Biggie ever flowed as well as he did in that song. And just because of how fucking good Bone did in Notorious Thugs. So that was from Biggie's Life After Death double album. I want to say 96, if I'm not mistaken.
97.
97, got you. But yeah, that's always was my favorite song. That was the reason I bought that album. Much like Method Man was the reason I bought his first album. But that's Biggie's a different podcast. But yeah, Bone, every member that was in that song killed it, and the beat is fire. And that chorus still, just that it's Bone and Biggie, Biggie. I don't know, the harmonizing. I always loved Bone. I hate R&B music, but I always loved Bone when they did it.
I thought of that song because that song's a shit, and I decided, I'm not going to count it. But it's amazing. So I'm almost glad it got brought up, because you're right. That's probably Biggie's. I love that. We'll talk about some other songs that they did with artists like Eazy and Pac, where they did a slower type flow, because, I don't want to see Eazy-E try to rhyme like Bone. But Biggie took it, I think, as a challenge, and he tried to do their flow, and he kills it. I agree. That song's a shit. It's like 6.5 minutes of just pure dopeness. So I'm glad it got brought up.
Best verse on the album too. Like Biggie just goes off in that song.
Yeah, it's ill as hell. It's
it's such a Bone song. Like I wanted to put it on, but since it was on his, I didn't. But
that's why I didn't.
Same here.
Armed and Dangerous, ain't they making hang with a straight we know just label us notorious. All right. Number 10, Riplak.
Number 10, I got Shots to the Double Glock. Another one they killed the flow on. And I just love the beat. It's just kind of an airy beat, but I love how they go back they can cover like any subject on the song and just flow with that beat no matter what. Like
that whole album is kind of like being in a haunted house almost. It's just so fucking eerie. It's not like a horrorcore eerie. It's where horrorcore music might be like Freddy Krueger and Jason. I look at Bone like Poltergeist or, something like that. Rowdy Jesus, what was your number 10?
My 10 is probably one of the most popular Bone songs, but it had to be on the list, even though there's so many great Bone songs. But The Crossroads, it's not necessarily like my go-to Bone, but it had to be on the list because the message behind it. Crossroads, to musicians, you get the message behind the crossroads. Meeting the devil, sign your soul, and all that. And it's still one of those, like, when I DJ a rap show, you can put The Crossroads on and everyone in the crowd is singing along and jamming to it. It's just such a amazing song.
It is. I had the remix of it, which was actually the version more people know.
Right, correct.
Was on my honorable mention. I like both versions, but the remix is a little bit more iconic. But yeah, that was an honorable mention. Good pick. And one of their biggest songs ever. All right. Number 9. I'm going to 1997's The Art of War. And before I tell you my song from this album, I remember when this dropped. You know, I loved East 1990 Eternal. I grabbed this album and just being straight up disappointed, just like almost bored with it. I was so disappointed. So I haven't listened to this in years. And when I revisited it now, I was still disappointed and I was still bored. There's something about this album where all of a sudden I'll find myself 3 songs into it and I wasn't paying attention, like I can't hold my attention. But this one song had to make the list because of the fucking beat, and that's Thug Love featuring Tupac. That fucking beat where every 2 bars cocking and shooting that gun off is so hardcore, so fucking badass. It's so dope. You know, and we talked before about flow. Pac does a slow flow on here, but it works kind of like Easy did on the songs he's done with him. And this is just the most gangsta of gangsta rap. Just ill. It's also ill that Bone did a song with Pac and Biggie at the height of their feud. So that's always another cool little thing, and however they pulled that off. But yeah, Thug Love, the beat puts it over for me. Having Pac in it is just a bonus. Even if Pac wasn't in it, it may have made my list just because that beat just fuck. I'm ready to go pull a drive-by. Raven, what's your number 9?
Number 9. So, number 9, I went with Down 71, The Getaway from E1999 Eternal. And I know kind of, again, I think that's just a busy and a crazy song, so maybe I'm cheating again. But that's my favorite, one of my favorite albums of all time, Eternal. I could have given you just 10 songs from Eternal and been kind of happy because almost every song slaps. And Down 71 is such a hardcore gangsta ass song from Busy and Crazy. Just they tell this dope ass story. It's got these little skits and breakdowns throughout the song. Fucking love that song.
They do a couple songs like that on there, like Die 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 too. I love this, like in the hooks are just skits almost telling the story.
Yeah, that was on my honorable mentions for sure.
Yeah. Nah, dope song. Riplak, number 9 on your list, and Heart.
This one probably didn't make a list, but it's Bone, Bone, Bone. Don't even remember what album it's on.
Thug World Order.
Okay, that's right. But I like where the, in the back, the Bone Thugs, and how it just starts out just going. They just go right out the gates.
Yeah, Bone Thugs. Bone Thugs. Yeah. Yeah, they start that album off great. That's a dope song.
Yeah.
I like that song too. AP, what's your number 9?
My number 9, featuring Eazy-E, Sleepwalkers. So I was going through like all the Bone songs, and I hit you up the other day. I was like, man, there's so many killer ones. It's hard to decide. Right. But I had to throw, if Eazy-E's on it, I'm putting it on the list. I don't care.
Yeah, that was was that on a Greatest Hits album?
I think it was like, because I didn't remember it at first, but it's on one of the, I think it was on like 2018 Greatest Hits or compilation type album, but it was Bone and Eazy-E. And I was like, I didn't even remember it at first, and I was like, oh my god, this is hard.
You're right.
It was also on either volume 2 or volume 3 of the collection. Those little
collections. That's the one I'm thinking of.
I think that's exactly what it's on. Yeah.
See, I think the first one had BNK with Eazy, and then the second one I bet had Sleepwalkers. No, you can never go wrong with Eazy.
If Eazy-E's on it, I love it.
No doubt.
Instantly.
You don't assume that things won't make other people's lists, because my number 8 is Bone, Bone, Bone off 2002's Thug World Order. What a way to start an album off. And after going through these albums multiple times, this is one of my favorite Bone albums. I loved this record. I kept listening to it over and over and over, and this was a great way to start it. Like we just said, the Bone Thugs, and then they Bone Thugs. Just sounded like old Bone again, where the few before this, like Art of War and the Bone Thugs Resurrection one, I thought they took a dip in quality. This album, I kind of felt like I was back to the old Bone I grew up with when they first signed with Ruthless. So Bone, Bone, Bone was my number 8. So you got some good taste there, Riplak. Raven, what's your number 8?
Number 8, I went with Thug Love featuring Tupac.
And it's mainly the beat and the way Bone rides this beat. Because honestly, as much as it was cool to have Pac on that album, his verse is a drag compared to the rest of the song.
Mhm.
It's like he's reading a poem rather than rapping because the beat is so slow for that type of flow. But they murdered it. Like Bone just kills that fucking beat. The gunshot through the whole thing. And that was like, I'm gonna have a beat like that one day. Like, cause I was already rapping and shit back then. And then I tried it and it didn't work out for me and I hated that song. I never released it. But they did an awesome job with that beat. And it was one of the there was like 3 or 4 songs from Art of War I kind of wanted to get on the album, but it was really comparing it to Creepin' and E1999, there was no way for me not to get more of that shit on here. So
Right. Did you kind of feel the same way? Do you remember when this first came out? Were you disappointed?
I
Yeah.
absolutely hated this album when it came out. It was a double album, and I feel like you could feel Tamika Wright on this album versus where Eazy-E was on the album
Right.
before.
You're right. This is the first record where Easy didn't have a hand in it.
And it was discombobulated. It was all over the place.
Right.
There were songs that didn't even feel finished.
Yeah.
Which I know was a thing because Busy's first solo album was a fucking disaster because of her.
Yeah, and we've talked about it on this podcast, how quick Tamika Wright fucked up the legendary Ruthless Records. I mean, she ran that shit into the ground so fast.
And
I mean,
on paper, a full double album of 20 plus Bone songs is amazing. And then you
right.
get it.
And then you get it. Yeah, be careful what you wish for. Almost it's hard to put out a good double album and not have filler. This just seemed almost mostly filler. All right, we are on number 8. Riplak, what you got?
So I've never been a Akon fan, but I like him in hip hop songs. That's it. So, and I really do. It's really weird. Can't stand the solo stuff. So I tried on the list. I'm surprised. I don't really think I liked it that much when it came out. I was just happy it kind of got a little more buzz. We've talked about this on prior podcasts about artists that will come out with the song later on, like Cypress Hill or something like that, to kind of get more of the attention for younger listeners. So
Right.
kind of that it came around that time, but yeah, so I had to put it on my list.
A great example of that is Too Short's Blow to Whistle. A lot of, especially younger kids, that's the song they know by Too Short. And up to that point, he had already had a whole career, retired, came back, did a bunch. I mean, he was on his second career already by the time he made that. I Tried was on my honorable mentions. I also love that song. And not necessarily because of Akon. Rowdy Jesus, number 8.
Hey, I love Akon, so honorable mention too for that song. My number 8 though was I think it was released in '97. Look Into My Eyes. That song, like, okay, so that whole '97 was right after I graduated high school, and I was like, starting the rap career with Surreal, doing Noise Wave. We just like took in all music, and Bone was a big influence on us on how we wrote and structured songs, how we would change up our rap styles. Maybe Surreal started rapping a little faster, and just that. Look Into My Eyes. I just think that song is just such a Bone song,
Right, and it was a single. It was either the first or second single.
Yeah, I think it was the first or second single. Yep.
Right, I can picture that
first.
video. Was it the
because
first?
it was also on the Batman and Robin soundtrack, and that was the lead single from that
I
soundtrack.
think you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Oh,
I'll talk about that song again later.
Okay.
All right. I didn't necessarily know that fact, or I forgot that fact. I'm not up on my Batman soundtracks, to be honest with you.
Probably should be though.
Obviously, I should. Hey, I do know that Method Man did a song, "The Riddler," on one of them.
On Batman Forever.
Is it that same one?
Before that.
Yeah. I kind of know. Anyways, rein it back in. My number 7, I'm going to the year 2007, Strength and Loyalty. And I'm going with the song Flow Motion. Now, they had a song called Flow Motion on Faces of Death. This is completely different, not the same. But a great way to start off an album. I think they kill it. It's a great showcase of their abilities. This album I remember liking when it came out. Now I was more just blah. But I liked Flow Motion a lot. And no denying they destroy it. I love how the beat lets up during the hook and then comes back in hard when their verse starts and they just destroy it. So Flow Motion was my number 7. Raven, what's yours?
Mine was from the Set It Off soundtrack, Days of Our Lives from Bone.
Oh yeah.
Such a smooth and like dope ass song.
and it fit that movie, and I love that movie when it dropped. I want to say 97, around that same time as when that came out.
Yeah.
Because I was in high school. I was getting ready to come out of high school. So yeah, that was a just great song. I love the chill vibes, and that chorus was in my head like that whole summer.
Did they put that out as a single too off that soundtrack? Because I feel like that was even
More
on
than
the
likely.
radio and everything. Yeah, no, that was a dope song. It's a good example of Bone. I
And they
mean,
were huge at the time, so it probably
oh
was
yeah,
one of the singles from it.
yeah, I believe so. Riplak, number 7.
I got East 1999. Same reason as before, the airy sound, and that's where I was drawn to around that time. Even with it has that kind of vibe that I liked from Ice-T's Seventh Deadly Sin album, just kind of like I don't know, that's what it reminds me of, just kind of that vibe.
Was real just eerie is the best way I can explain it. That whole album is just like you're looking over your shoulder. And
Yeah,
that song is dope. And that's
yeah.
like the first actual song
The
they just
first verse
showed.
was the best too. Just the
Yeah,
way you want to see it and everything. I love that.
right.
The is great.
Number 7, Rowdy. What you got?
My number 7 I got from Later On song Playa on 20, and it was released 2019. Again, like I never really listened to the Later On stuff until recently. Or not really, like within the last couple of years, like I just
Right.
started like going back, man, I forgot how good they are. And then when you told me, hey, we're doing the Bone podcast, I was like, shit. And I started listening to it. They have way more good material than I even really jam to like on an everyday basis. And it was hard to pick. There was a couple other choices I wanted to put in the list, but yeah, I had to put that one in. I
Which
could have made a list for like I could have probably made a top 10 list for the first 3 albums alone.
Creeping on the come up, it's
Yeah,
hard not to put every actual
right,
song on there.
exactly.
I might even put Mo Cheese on there. All right, number 6, and I know I'm gonna get some raised eyebrows for this, having it at this point in the list. But for the first time, I'm taking us to that legendary EP 1994's Creeping on the Come Up, For the Love of Money, featuring Eazy-E. What an amazing EP. Like I just said, I could have put this whole thing on there. Of course, I love how Easy came in slower and didn't try to rap like Bone, but it works. It's just a great laid back beat made by Yella, actually. DJ Yella of NWA made it. I remember the video with Easy in it. He's like on the corner slinging rocks and he's running down, and he had his hair out like Afro, which he didn't have all that often. But this, I have a note to talk about. I brought it up once before and I didn't remember who the interview was with, but I looked it up. It was a Rhythm D, longtime producer at Ruthless. And he told a story about Easy first bringing him Bone and playing it for him. And he's telling Rhythm D, these guys are going to be the next big thing. I'm going to sign them. And Rhythm D's like, Eric, you're crazy. There ain't no way people are going to bump this. They're going to say they're singing, that they're, not really hard. No way. And he's saying how Eric's like, no, I'm going to sign them. You just don't get it. And he's like, at the end, Rhythm D's like, Eric was Eric. He usually was right when it came to spotting talent. And goddamn, did they blow up? Was Eric ever right when it came to Bone? But I figure everyone else will have For the Love of Money higher up. It kept getting bumped down a little. It hurts my soul because of Easy-E, but it ended up at number 6. So that was my number 6. Raven, what's yours?
My number 6, from the Creepin' EP, the song No Surrender. It's just a really hard fucking song. The sirens in it. I have always loved that fucking song. It gets me hype. It's a fighting song for me. Like I could just down a fifth of Jack and then swing on you if that song came on. But yeah, it's one of them songs that gets me hype. Even now, re-listening to this, because I still listen to that EP regularly.
Right.
Anyway. But I listened to it more recently because of this pod. And yeah, no, that song I just kept going back to and just getting fucking amped.
It is. It's fight music. Riplak, what's your number 6?
I have Mo Murda, that beat, or not the beat, but the beat, but the hook always, like, really, that's like all you really need to know of the song, and it's just sick. But I like how it's just slowed up and then it goes into the verses, and it just transitions so well in that song.
Such a great vibe. It's the best thing about music when it can totally transport you. That's what songs like that do. Number 6, AP.
My number 6, Crept and We Came, and the reason I put it on the list is because it is my new playlist for work. So when I was going through and listening to these songs, I was like, I add a couple, that you forget about, but that one
Right.
went into my official work playlist.
Nice.
The song's just a good, once again, an overrun, just a great Bone song. You can't go wrong with a Bone song.
Yeah, they
Well, they
did.
had a couple of shitty ones, but
Yeah, they did. But that album, that was pretty much perfect. All right, so that gets us halfway, number 5, and I'm taking us to the year 2006, and the album is Thug Stories. Now, this is an album I forgot about, and it turns out I really like this album when I revisited it. It's a different vibe than their other albums, but I enjoyed it. And the song is so sad. It's about scandalous hoes doing scandalous things, but this beat is just so ill. It's like audio crack to me. It's produced by Cushion Kato, who I had never heard of, but they flow over it so damn perfectly. It just showcases their skills. And it's just, I don't know, it's something about this beat gets me every time. People aren't familiar, just check out the beat. So sad off of Thug Stories. But Thug Stories was really underrated. I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't call it one of their best albums, but I enjoyed it more than I remembered enjoying it. So that was my number 5. Raven, what's yours?
For the Love of Money featuring Eazy-E was
No,
my number 5. Again, that beat is killer, and unlike the Pac feature where it's super slow and it just doesn't work for me, Eazy-E always raps slow like that. So,
right.
it would have sounded ridiculous if they tried to speed Eric up. But standing on the corner, straight slang and rocks. Oh shit! Like,
Yep.
God, I just love that shit.
Right.
And at the time, and to this day, he's still one of my favorite rappers of all time. But he was, Eric was God during those NWA days to me, because that's what made me who I am. So to hear him, that was automatically I was gonna love Bone anyway because he was on the album, and then that whole EP just fucking blew away most of what was going on in the music industry at the time.
It's amazing how well that EP still holds up. I mean, it doesn't sound dated at all. It's just so.
Yeah, every song still slaps.
I thought that would be higher on your list because of the Eazy-E factor. So I don't feel so bad putting it at 6. Riplak, what's your number 5?
I have Thuggish Ruggish Bone.
Oh,
Honestly, there's a couple I'd probably put it ahead of, but the other ones are ahead of it due to nostalgic reasons, I guess.
that's the first song I believe I ever heard from Bone was Thuggish Ruggish Bone.
yeah, same here.
Was that a sing? I know For the Love Money was, but did they put Thuggish Ruggish Bone? I think as a single too, if I remember right.
Yeah, they did. I
Thuggish
think
was
because
the
it
first
picked up
single.
later on, right?
That makes
I
sense.
think it was the
Why?
first single, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, was it?
If I'm not mistaken, I think Thuggish was first.
If it was Ruthless Records, even the singles, I know I would go in to buy the album, but I'd buy the single even before the album. If it said Ruthless Records, I mean, he could have put out the wackest shit ever, and I still would have bought it.
The cassette single just had that skull with
You're
the two
right,
guns
that
beside it, really
the
close.
silver skull, right? Yeah, it was.
I really like the singer in that song too.
Mhm.
The Thuggish Ruggish Bone. I like her. I don't know why. There's a couple. There's like an old Thug Life. I can't remember what song it was, but there's like a singer on there that just stood out to me, but she never really went to be anything, or maybe it was a sample or something, but it's one of those singers that you go look up and I don't know. It's just like I didn't look this one up. I should, but I really liked her singing. I thought it fit perfectly with the song.
No, super dope song. AP, what was your number 5?
As brought up before, a Mo Murder. And yes, it is all
We
about
all
that.
had it.
It's too addicting to not be on the list.
It is. It's like audio crack. It is.
Yeah. Just it tunes you in, and then it's
right.
like one of those other, all those rap songs always trigger an emotion. But yeah, you're ready to kill motherfucker.
All right, so that brings us to number 4, and we'll might as well go to the album Mo Murders on East 1999 Eternal, and I'm going with East 1999. I know you brought it up before, Riplak. What a first track from the beginning part with that echo. East 1999, and then that just hits, and they just are. God damn, this is just some dope gangster shit. All 5 members destroy it. People were so hyped for this album, including me, to drop. We were all waiting for the full length Bone album, and to have this be the first song you heard when you put in that tape or CD, it's just like, fuck yeah, they're delivering. Dope beat, classic gangsta elements in the back, coming and going. Last couple bars, it drops some elements, then comes back in hard. Just well structured beat. Great shit right here. East 1999 was my number 4. Raven, what about you?
Well, you already knew it was on my list. Mo Murda. It made everyone's list.
Yeah.
That's my number 4. That beat has always stood out to me. And Crazy Bones verse especially. Crazy's my favorite member,
I
and
would
he
agree.
usually tends to stand out anyway. But Mo Murda, it felt like his song. Like he took command of that fucking song when he got on it. And then Thug Mentality and a lot of his solo shit, he just had that presence as the group. In my opinion, Crazy was always like the group lead. You know what I mean? Because he was always the standout. I think Lazy was technically the one they kind of appointed as the head of the group, because he was the only one with solo tracks on the Bone Enterprise album too. But yeah, I think Mo Murder is just one of those, that beat. Shouts to Double Glock. There's a lot of beats like that on that album. Unique was like at the just top of his game when that album came out.
Right. And he does pretty much the whole album, if not the whole album. I
I think
didn't
he did
check.
that whole album.
Right. Amazing. Someone else who didn't, he did all this Bone shit, but I can't list a lot of other things he did. It's amazing he never really
It
was.
broke out more mainstream or
Right.
anything.
Because those beats are fucking iconic.
If we were gonna put songs like that they featured on, I was gonna do Crazy Bone and Ice Cube, that song.
Until We're Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's like one of my favorite songs. Like, it's amazing.
No, Crazy Bones is shit. That Thug Mentality album is amazing.
And that's a double album that's fire. It fires.
Yep. That's one of the few double albums that hit pretty much all cylinders. I mean, such a dope album. No, Crazy is the shit. All right, number 4 for you, Riplak.
Number 4 is Thug Love. And I was one of those people that was like all about Tupac and listened to him all the time. And then I love that song, but I was always a little bit earlier than people around me where I was at. So it kind of like, I would listen to like all this shit, and then all of a sudden everyone catch wind of it and they're listening to it everywhere. I was kind of happy a little bit about that because it got more people listening to both at the same time. I like the whole thing. The gunshots are awesome. Now going back after hearing that about Pac's first, maybe I'll look at it differently. And I don't really I love Pac, but I don't put him on as high as I used to or listen to him as much.
Right.
I do love that song though, and that gun blast just makes that song.
That's so ill, that beat. That fucking gun blast.
Timed out so perfectly. Yeah, it's just timed out so perfectly.
I mean, right with the cock and
yeah.
I mean,
it's great.
Raven, I kind of want to hear that song you didn't release. I want to see how much it sounded like that.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. I doubt it though. That's like deep vault. No one's heard that one.
It'll be on one of the albums after you die when they put out your unreleased shit. That'll be the first single. Hey P, what's your number 4?
So the super hardcore Bone fans are gonna hate me, but I'm gonna have to go. Wake up! It's the first of the month. I know it's too mainstream. You're not supposed to put it on your list, but that's a great song.
It is a great song with a great beat and a great flow. That's just a great song.
Flow, yeah, all around. That song hits every time.
It's just super played, and that might be the only reason. It didn't make my list. But
it had to go on my list, even though it is overplayed. I think for a while, especially a while back, it was overplayed.
It made my honorable mentions because I thought of it being overplayed, but when I put this album in again, I was like, this is a really good song. It's a really dope song. So it made my honorable mentions. I apologize for being on your list at all. It holds up, but it got played a fucking lot in that song.
There was like a couple years where it just nonstop. You heard it every 2 minutes. But that was so long ago. I feel like we can bring it back.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. That's like 25 years ago.
Right.
More than that shit. We're getting old, guys. All right, top 3. And I'm going back to the iconic Creeping on the Come Up. Fuck, what a dope EP. And you talked about it, Raven. No Surrender. Like you said, just so hardcore, just classic Bone right here. Another hard beat by Unique. Also, this is less why I like it and more, I don't know. I don't know if it's the way my brain works, but I just sometimes picture myself being in the studio while they're recording and what was going on in the background and shit. And I always picture Wish finishing his verse and the engineer saying, "No, you got 2 more bars to go." And he's like, "That's all I got. We got to put something." Because for the last bars of his verse, he goes, "Pop, pop, 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 pop," for 2 bars. And I'd always like, why? Like, I want to know why he made that decision. That shit's crazy, right? If you think about it, what the fuck was he doing?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I never really thought about it, but you're probably right.
Yeah, my mind always goes to that. Like, what the fuck was his decision making? But no,
They got too high. That was just hey, this is it. This is all you're getting. We're out. We're going to drink.
right? But dope song. You're right. Fight music, just great gangster shit. So No Surrender was my number 3. Raven, what's yours?
My number 3 surprised me, because it came off of Art of War, and it wasn't even one of the songs like because Body Rot, Clog Up Your Mind, and Thug Love are really the only songs I love from that album. But look into my eyes, for some reason, I found myself listening to it so much. And it's funny, I remember the video, they're standing on the rooftop like Gotham, and there's the big sign in the background with the bat symbol and shit in a Bone video. That always blew me away that summer. But just the, look into my eyes, it's the harmony, it's the way they do things. And that was the first single for that album, and it didn't stand out at the time for me, but it's way higher on my list. I didn't think that song would have made my list at all, but yeah, that came in number 3 because I just kept re-listening to it.
It's amazing how music can change how you hear it depending on your age range or whatever has happened throughout your life. It still didn't hit me, but it was no doubt it was a big record. Like you said, it was the first single. But I did not remember that. I can't picture the video with Batman. I don't remember
I
that
couldn't
being on
remember the video either. Now I'm gonna go check it out.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
it's just
interested.
like it's almost like a Gotham type landscape. They're on these like rooftops or whatever. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't rewatched it lately,
Right.
but I definitely remember like the bat symbol and shit in the video because I thought that was a trip for Bone Thugs. After they
Right.
ended the album on shots to the double Glock, and then they start their next album with a fucking bat symbol.
Crossover success. Number 3, Riplak.
Okay, my number 1, I knew was going to be my number 1. My number 2 and 3, before I made this list, I was like, those probably won't make it because they're 2 that were way overplayed back in the day, and that's why I quit listening to them for a while. But when I came back to them making this list, I was like, oh yeah. So my number 3 is Crossroads. Also, listening to all the songs and stuff, for some reason, that's the one that just keeps going over my head all day long, no matter what I've been doing. Like, and I'm gonna miss everybody, all that shit. Like,
Right.
it's just like over and over. I'm like, stop. So I have to give it its love for that. And also just listening to it again, I'm just like, okay, and they're dropping like specific people that they miss, and like, I don't know, it's cool because I read the comments, and like it goes like there's still people coming back to it relating, like when someone passes or people play it at funerals, and like I'm pretty sentimental about that type of stuff. So that definitely hit way higher than I thought it would, but I'm not mad about it.
No, I mean, that's why I was on my honorable mention. There's no doubt it's an earworm song. It'll stick with you. Rowdy Jesus, number 3.
So you guys talked about it enough already, so I'll just say it. No Surrender. It's got to be one of the hardest gangster songs there is. I mean, shit.
Hell yeah.
I had to put it up there. It's one of my favorite beats by them all time. I can't remember who did that beat.
I think it's Unique.
Probably
it?
Unique. Yeah. Oh, it is. It's in my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Unique. No doubt.
But that's just a hard ass beat. That's just a great ass song. Get you pumped up.
The chorus, the no surrender, but with like that robotic, like it's like the police type siren.
Right.
I don't know. I always envisioned it was on like the police scanner type shit. Like
Yeah.
it just fit the theme.
So dope. So fucking amazing. The older I get, the more I appreciate little elements like that in the beat and drops, and it's like just fucking amazing. All right. We're talking about this hard ass fucking song, No Surrender. but we're gonna take it back to the lighter side because everyone knows by now I'm a big softie. I'm going to 2002's. I'm going back here. Thug World Order, a song that or an album I really, really enjoyed. And then I did some digging in my boxes, and I even have the single yet. And that song is Home, featuring Phil Collins. I think this song is fucking amazing. It hits me in the soul. Like, I would listen to this 3 or 4 times in a row whenever I had this album on. And talk about using a sample perfectly. Phil Collins, Take Me Home. You don't really think Phil Collins bone, but I think it works. It's a great on the real song. Everyone brings it, fits the vibe. I love Crazy's verse. I made a note of that. I just fucking love his verse. Very reflective. And the video even featured Phil Collins in it. For this podcast, when I was looking at the wiki for this page, he said, I'll appear in your video, but you have to come to Switzerland, where I am right now. So Bone flew to Switzerland to get Phil Collins in the video. And I remember people hating on this song because of the Phil Collins element, calling it whack. I fucking love it. I liked it back then. It still hits me. I know I'm softy at heart. So fuck it. It's my list. Home, my number 2. Raven, what's yours?
Home was a dope fucking song, and it got me hyped for Bone again for the first time in a while. I love that song too. It's on
It's
my
the
honor
shit.
list.
Yeah.
My number 2, it was Thuggish Ruggish Bone, because it meant so much to me when that came out. It was so different. That song itself was so different than everything else I was listening to, because the Chronic had come out, and Doggy Style had come out, and this didn't sound anything like what I was listening to. So and Crazy's verse in that song is what hooked me in, and then my brother became a lifelong Busy fan because of that song. And we played the fuck out of that cassette single until that album dropped, and then we played the fuck out of that album. It might be one of the more perfect EPs to ever come out, one of the better debuts to ever come out, if you don't count Bone Enterprise.
Right.
But yeah, Thuggish Ruggish Bone, that singer, I don't think she was ever in anything else that I can find anything on.
Right.
But she was dope. She has a very, her voice matches the beat just perfectly. And plus, she names all 5 of the members at the end of the song, so you didn't even have to guess,
But shit, she's gonna have one song, Amaza be iconic like this, I suppose. Good number 2. Riplak, what's your number 2?
Mine is First of the Month. Yeah.
Wake up.
I don't know. That's just the song I think of whenever I think of Bone Thugs and Harmony, like my whole life. So it's up there. I loved it back then, and it's just catchy.
It is, and it introduced all the suburban kids who didn't know the relevance of the First of the Month. They could learn a little something.
Yeah, because we did get those food stamps. So right at home, we were like, yeah, first of the month.
Hell yeah, First of the Month's a big fucking deal, right?
Yeah, going to mom's house. Give me those food stamps. The actual physical ones.
The actual, yeah.
Yeah, we actually had the household. They had the $1 bill.
It came in a book.
Yeah, it came in a book.
For real, they
book,
did.
Right. Right. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, memories.
Yeah.
AP, what was your number 2?
My number 2, I gotta give it out to my boy Easy on this one. So For the Love of Money, featuring Easy E. We talked about it pretty much already. I'm disappointed in you guys for not being your number 1, and I'm disappointed in myself for not putting it at number 1. But my number 2, For the Love of Money.
6 was too low. I knew I was making a mistake because Eric
I felt the
killed
same
that.
way about number 5, but No
Right.
Murder and Shit, I just had to have a
Yeah.
it.
These lists are tough. If
They
I
are
make this
tough.
next week,
You know how many
Might be
times
too
might
much.
change in the last 5 days?
oh shit! Every list I do
I've-
changes.
It
nonstop.
I've been
does, yeah,
messaging you. I've been messaging you every day. You for this. Fuck. I wanted this. Fuck me.
Yeah. This is how Ice-T was for me. It was like I could put 50 songs here. I mean, what the fuck?
that was a hard one. Yeah.
Well, it brings us to number 1. And we're going back to that near perfect EP. And you can probably guess Thuggish Ruggish Bone. Like I said, this is when I was introduced to him. And also, like you said, Raven, you literally never heard anything like that in hip hop. It did not exist. And what I think is interesting, if you go back to their local one, the Bone Enterprise, if you listen to that, it almost sounds more like a Fushnikins or it doesn't sound like the Bone most people picture in their head. So it's interesting they made that leap to all of a sudden Eric, Easy. I talk about him like I know him personally. Easy E gets a hold of him and just like perfect marriage and puts out this amazing fucking EP. The beat slowly comes in, the bass hits, then you hear that hook come in. I mean, god damn. And when I think of Bone, I think of this song. And I remember the video. Easy's done this video too. He really pushed him. He obviously knew what he was doing. Everything that makes Bone dope is in this song. Thuggish, ruggish, Bone. Raven, what's number one on your list?
So yeah, this was the hardest list I've done, hands down. This was 10 times harder than the LL Cool J shit, and I thought that
Wow.
was going to cripple me because it unlocked those memories of just how much I liked everything they put out for like 3 years straight. You know what I mean? When you finally told me we were doing this, I already had number one locked in my head from the East 1999, and
Yeah.
then think about back in the days when he was 89. Like
Right.
that song is so fucking hard. That beat is so fucking hard. I listened to it so many times. I wore the single out because I wanted to memorize every lyric to it, just so my dad could ridicule me and just tell me to rap so fat and to fucking grow up. But he's 1999. Thuggish Ruggish Bone and First of the Month might be their biggest hits and what most people think of, but that
Yep.
the way that opens that album, aside from the little Mr. Ouija intro,
Right.
like it just is so from that first, and then Flesh was in it, and he was barely in anything on any of those albums. And Flesh kills that song. Even Wish kills that song, and Wish is everyone's least favorite member of the group.
Yeah, poor guy.
He never put out a solo, and
No,
that's probably
no.
why I say that. Like,
Yeah.
I want to hear a Wishbone solo. What did you have on your mind, bro? Like, but East 1999, the video, it fits the eerie vibe with the burning trash cans and they're on wires levitating over the fire with their white eyes and shit. Like, it fit that East 1999 feel.
Hell yeah. Dope song. That's why I was high on my list too. I'm glad y'all felt the same about that too. What a way to I repeat myself, but I think it's so important to start an album off dope to catch them. And that's just done perfectly. Riplak, number one.
Ah, shit. For the love of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's number one. I knew it right. I knew it right when this list happened because that song is amazing. Easy E does great, especially that his verse is my favorite on that song.
Oh, no doubt. No
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not disappointed in you now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the easy part. That was the easiest part. And I mean, obviously, Thuggish Ruggish Bones. I wanted to move that up to 2 for a while. I don't know. I get nostalgic on some of these instead of like how the song is, but it's my list, right?
Absolutely. It's your list. You can put whatever you want on.
That's number one easily.
Yeah. When I hear shit like that, I always go back to if Easy doesn't die, what would he have given us for the next 10, 15, 20 years?
I guarantee you his best work was not behind him because he started working with Bone, and I just think they would have elevated each other.
Right. No doubt. It's sad. Makes me sad. Rowdy Jesus, number one on your list.
So my number one comes with a tiny story. I just came up on my timeline on Facebook. Evil Squad got to open up for Bone years ago. And we had an amazing show. We come out, all their people, like everybody that was there for them, got to see us. They're congratulations, buying shots and everything. And then all of a sudden, like the lights go black and Swag comes up and you hear, we're not against rap. We're not against rappers, but we are against those thugs. And that beat kicks on and they come out, they're blazing blondes. And the fucking place was nuts. And that's my number one. Thuggish Ruggish Bones got to be my number one. It's just that hard of a song. It'll always hold a very special place in my heart as a hip hop song.
And none of us talked about that intro from I think that's Reverend Calvin Butts.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, even that is not against rappers, but we are against those thugs. Yeah. And then she comes in. So how many of the members were touring at that point? Do you remember?
There was only one of them was missing. One of them was in jail. Busy or somebody? I can't remember. I can't remember who was not on tour, but somebody was.
Oh, Because I know it kind of fluctuated through
Yeah, it
time.
was
How many
everybody
members?
but one. I can't. I
That's
just
not
can't. It was
bad.
long ago,
Yeah.
so I don't remember. But
Yeah, when 5PE opened for him in 2018, there was mission Flesh, Busy and Flesh were off, so it was just Lazy Crazy and Wish that showed up for that show.
At some point, didn't they kick Busy out, and then he came
Yeah, because
back?
he was being real toxic and shit towards like
Right.
everyone apparently.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
he,
was
went
probably
he did do
some-
a little bit of time, not much. I remember.
Right.
a moment.
I know he was always an issue, but Crazy was always there as the like anchor to always keep
Foundation.
it dope. Right, no doubt, no doubt. All right, Bone Thugs and Harmony, we did it. Great ending to this season. And as always, honorable mentions. I always have a bunch of no one mentioned it, and I think it needs some love. I just give it a shout out. Off their first album, which a lot of people haven't heard, there's a song called Number One Assassin that I really like. Off of Creeping on the Come Up Down From My Thing. Die 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 off of East 1999. I always like too the storytelling element. Body Rot from Art of War.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that Body Rot. That
I'm
almost didn't
surprised
work.
it didn't make anyone's list. Yeah. Off the BNH Resurrection one, which I wasn't a big fan of. There's a song Mind on Our Money. That's a cool little story. Thug World Order, there's a song Guess Who's Back. Pump Pump Pump. Thug Stories, there's a song called She Got Crazy. And then from the Unified one, there's a song called Gone that I really liked. What Are We Missing?
Everyday Thing from the show soundtrack.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Fantastic. Murder One from BTNA's Resurrection. Yeah, Land of the Heartless, Eternal. I could name you all of
Right.
1999 and
Right.
Creeping. But those were the standouts that didn't get mentioned for me.
Think of how many times we bring up that show soundtrack. What an amazing record.
It's like the fifth or sixth cast easily we've had to bring that up.
Everything on that is so fucking dope.
We're
And
gonna do top 10 soundtrack songs.
we already
Oh,
we
you
did
already
we
did it?
did.
we did soundtracks, but we could do songs off of soundtracks.
That's what I meant.
That would be
Yeah,
hard.
yeah,
That would be
yeah,
a tough
yeah.
one.
That would be a fucking really hard one, yeah.
Or we just make it hip hop songs off soundtracks.
Yeah, it'd still be hard as fuck.
Yeah, I will be. There's so many. good ones.
And I would like to see a Kanye episode at some point when we come back.
We'll do it. I like those first three albums. I won't
Okay.
front. I like those first three albums. He can be crazy and still make good music. So well, like I said before, guys, this is gonna be the last one of this season. I'll come back in March, and I already got a list in my head of about 30 more MCs to do shows on. So we aren't gonna run out of material anytime soon. But thanks for making it, guys. Bone was fun. I fucking loved it. It was a
Hell
great
yeah.
one. So
Thanks for
have a
having
good night and have a good Christmas, y'all.
Yeah, you
Coming up
do.
quick.
As well.
No doubt. All right. Peace.
right.
Still a B-boy, from the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East coast to the west, B-boys worldwide, we supposed to be blessed. Still a B-boy, from the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East coast to the west, B-boys worldwide, we